Mike Maggio from PlayGreatPoker.com and author of Fundamentals of Playing Online Texas Hold'em Poker. Today we're going to learn about PFR VPIP ratio and player types. So with this stat, you'll be able to quickly identify whether you're playing aggressive enough, and also you can profile your players, whether they're weak and passive fish, or strong players, or maniacs. In today's video, we're going to learn what PFR VPIP ratio is, why PFR VPIP ratio is so important, what's a good PFR VPIP ratio to have, how you can use PFR VPIP ratio to profile the other players at your table, and then I'll show you where you can practice and play Texas Hold'em poker totally for free and track your PFR VPIP at the same time. VPIP, voluntarily put money in the pot, and PFR, pre-flop raise, are the two most important stats you'll need to master when you play online poker. But the combination of these two together is a powerful tool to see if you're playing aggressive enough poker and also classifying the other players at your table. The definition for PFR VPIP ratio is how often a player raises pre-flop in relation to how often that player put money in the pot. So your PFR divided by your VPIP is your ratio. So if you play 10 hands and you raise 6 times, your PFR VPIP ratio is 60%. If we look at the 60% of hands, 6 times we raised by either opening the pot, raising first in, or 3-betting, 4-betting, etc. And 4 times we called or limped in. So 60% of the time we played aggressive poker. If you're not that familiar with VPIP or PFR, I created a video where I dive deeper into each stat, and I'll put links to those videos in the description below. What is a good PFR VPIP ratio to have anyway? So based on research by PlayGreatPoker.com, over a large sample of data, winning online players at the low stakes 6-max game had an average PFR VPIP ratio of between 45 and 91%. Players with a high PFR VPIP ratio, they're the players that are opening the pot, raising, 3-betting, and they're very aggressive players, and they're usually the winning players online. Players with a low PFR VPIP ratio are your weak passive players, and usually they're easy to play against because they do a lot of calling, just trying to hit the flop. So you want to strive to have a PFR VPIP ratio of above 45%, more like above 60%, and you can even go above 91%. Really, no PFR VPIP ratio is too high. So, I mean, even if you raised 100% of the time, you never called or limped, you probably could still be a winning player. What you don't want to be is down here in the red, where you're doing a lot of limping or calling. So if you're new to online poker, and many new players to online poker have a low PFR to VPIP ratio because they're afraid to raise. They do a lot of calling and limping, but you're going to find over time that you need to raise and take control of the pot and 3-bet. And if you can't raise or 3-bet, then you need to fold. So you want to have a raise or fold mentality, and there are a few isolated cases where you would call or limp, but very rare. So if you have a low PFR VPIP ratio, how do you improve? So most new online players, they do have a low PFR VPIP ratio. So how can you improve it? Number one is you almost never want to limp. Especially, and you definitely never want to open limp. So if you come into a pot, you want to come into a pot with a raise and take control of that pot. You want to reduce your calling. You want to try to have a raise or fold mentality. So if you can't raise, then you probably should fold. And that means increasing your 3-betting. So if you're facing a raise, you want to say, should I 3-bet or I fold? There are a few occasions where you can call, but you really have to have a really good reason to call. For example, a really speculative hand that you could hit and win a big pot with if you hit it, and you're getting good pot odds to make that call. When you play online and you use a HUD, you can use PFR VPIP ratio to profile players and classify them into different categories. So let's start with a tight passive nitty player. So these kind of players, they play very few hands, 15% or 12%, and they only raise like 6% or 2%. So these players, they only play quality hands, and when they raise, they usually have a very strong hand. These players will fold against your raises a lot. So next is our loose passive. These are the players you want at your table. So this kind of player, he's playing 44% of hands, and he raises 3%. He only raises the very strongest hands, aces, kings, ace, king, queens. And this player plays almost every two cards, 70%. He also only raises the very strong hands. These players love the call. They hate the fold. They can't find the fold button. They'll call you post-flop, pre-flop, all the way to the river, and you'll make most of your money against these loose passive players. They're weak players. People call them fish. They're the ones you want to have at your table. Next is your tight aggressive, or regs, which stands for regulars. That's what people call them. And they have a VPIP PFR ratio that is very close in their gap. And they only play quality hands like 21%, 24%. But when they play a hand, they're usually raising. Like this player, he plays 21% of hands, and he's raising 16% of hands, which is probably around 75% of the time he's coming in with a raise whenever he opens the pot or three bets or plays a pot. And this player, he's playing 24% of hands, and he's either coming in with a raise or opening a pot 21% of the times. They don't call, and they don't limp very often at all. They're tight aggressive, and they're usually your winning players. And you don't want to have these players on your left. You want to have them not even at your table, but if they are on your table, on your right. The last player type is your loose aggressive or maniac, and this is the one player most people have trouble playing against. So this kind of player will come into a pot like 44% of the time and raise 25%, or maybe 35% and raise 19% of the pot. So the way they play is they're trying to raise and 3-bet you and 4-bet you, trying to get you to fold. So if you have this player on your left, it's going to be trouble, because every time you open, they'll try to raise you or 3-bet you and get you out of the pot. You want to have this kind of player on your right, and you can basically call them down all the way to the river, because they'll try to keep raising and pushing you out of the pot. And if you only play strong hands and call them down, you can win big pots against them. For those that never seen real online poker with a HUD, this is a real hand from Poker Stars. This is a hand replayer, and this is Hero, me, and I play 292,000 hands, and my VPIP is 20. My pre-flop raise is 15, which means my PFR VPIP ratio is 75%. So let's look at a few player types on this site for this hand. So this guy on my left, he plays 30% of hands, and he only raises 3% of the time. So he hardly ever raises. When he does raise, he has a strong hand, and he's playing about 1/3 of the hands. His 3-bet is about 3%. This is a very weak player and a good player to have on my left. This player is really weak. I've only played 89 hands against him, but he's played 27% of those hands. He's yet to raise or 3-bet. So you want to have this player at your table at all times, if possible. Here's a more traditional, stronger player, not quite a strong reg, but he's playing 29% of hands. His VPIP is 29, and his pre-flop raise is 20. He 3-bet 5. So he's a pretty strong player and getting more towards your regular players. And I played 332 hands against him. So one great thing about online poker is if you don't like your table, you can shut your table and open another one. So usually if I have any kind of strong player on my left, or a player that's going to raise me a lot, I'll just shut that table and open a new one. The last thing I want to show you is where you go practice Texas Hold'em poker for free, and you can track your VPIP, PFR, and see your PFR VPIP ratio. So here there's a free poker game on PlayGreatPoker.com. There's a ring version and a tournament version, and you can just come here, and there's no registration, no download required. You can just log on and start playing. As you're playing, it tracks your stats for you to help you improve. When this hand ends, I'll show you how you can see those. So we'll view the standings here, and we have HUD stats here. So here I have my VPIP is 22%, My pre-flop raise PFR is 15. And there's a skills report. So the skills report compares your stat compared to the online winning players. So if we go down here, we can see the PFR to VPIP ratio, and my ratio is 68%. So the dot shows in the green is the winning players. The yellow, you need some improvement, and the red is you probably need even more improvement. So there's a bunch of stats that it shows you as you're playing and shows you how you do against online winning players. So then you can continue playing if you want. Anyway, the whole thing is free. You can just come here and play and have fun and try to learn about poker. That's it for today's video. Again, I'm Mike Matteo from PlayGreatPoker.com. If you liked the video or found it useful, you can hit the like button or even subscribe to my channel for more videos coming in the future. If you want to contact me, you can go to PlayGreatPoker.com and hit the Contact Us button, and it'll come to me. Again, thank you for watching the video, and good luck with your poker.